Hello everyone! Welcome to our first episode on Python's Basic Data Type series. If you're just getting started with Python, then you've come to the right place. In this series, we'll be covering the foundational data types that you need to know in order to enhance or to build up your Python programming skills. To kick things off, we'll be starting with strings, one of the most basic and most used data types. It's actually something that you need to know if you're interested in projects such as sentiment analysis or those that involves words or text. Now, to spice things up, we'll be using characters from one of the most popular Netflix TV series, which is Money Heists. So, whether you're a beginner or just someone looking to brush up your skills on Python programming, then you've come to the right place. So, without further ado, let's begin. Strings are sequences of characters enclosed in quotes. You'll use strings whenever you're working with text, be it a message, a name, or maybe even a sentence. In Python, you can define a string using single quotes or double quotes. So let's create some strings using some characters in Money Heist. So this is how you would define a string. So let's say, for example, let's create a leader variable where we'll assign the professor value to the leader, and the rubber will be Tokyo. You see here, if you call on the print function on the leader, it will return the professor, and same with the rubber. Note that in the first example, we've used double quotes, but for the second example, we've used single quotes. You just need to be consistent with your opening quote and your ending quote. Let's use some basic built-in functions for our string. So if you use the len function, which will tell you how many characters there are in a variable, for example, for the leader, it will give you 9 because there are 9 letters in professor. If you try that with the rubber, you'll get there 5 because there are 5 letters in Tokyo. To verify the type, to applying the type function, it will give you str for string. Remember, strings in Python are immutable, meaning that you can't change its individual characters once it has been created. Let's see that in action. So for example, for the leader, for professor, if you want to change the first letter, let's say for example to a small p, so to subset it, right, you will do leader and then subsetting it with the square bracket 0 for the 0 position, or the first one, you'll get their p. If you want to change that to a small p, you might want to try to equate this with p, kind of like assigning the first character to be a small p. But you will see here that str, or string object, does not support item assignment, meaning it's not mutable or it's immutable. However, there are plenty of ways to manipulate strings, and we'll explore those shortly. Python provides a lot of built-in method for us to manipulate and handle strings. Let's start with some of those. So if we want to convert something to all uppercases, we use the .upper method. So for example, in this case, leader.upper, and you see here the methods are simply just appended or attached to the variable. So this is our string variable. We've checked that earlier. So here it's a string variable, and any string variable can just have a .upper method attached to it. And look at what will happen. So our professor here, from just having a proper case where only the first letter is capitalized, you'll have all letters of that variable all in uppercase. For lowercase, let's say for example rubber, for Tokyo, you use the opposite method, the .lower. To replace a part of a string with another string, we can do the following. We can call on the replace method. So let's say for example you have here rubber and then Tokyo, and then maybe you want to make t here small. So let's say dot replace, and you want to replace the t with a small t, right? And essentially this is what we need to do earlier to also replace the small, well, the large P for the professor with a small p. You'll make this smaller. But here's something that you should not miss. If I call on rubber again, notice it hasn't changed. Take a few moments to ponder about why this happened and use the concepts on our basic Python programming video on why this happened. This happened because while we were able to replace the large T or the upper T with a lower case t, we didn't assign it to the variable rubber. So we need to assign it to the rubber in order for that effect to become permanent, so that when you call in the new variable or the variable rubber, this would have already been assigned to this variable. So let's do that, and you see here you're able to see that the method that we have applied is now also saved in the variable. So you can even, for example, replace the whole word, let's say Tokyo, with, let's say, Lisbon. But ensure that you will assign it with the variable so that when you call the new variable or the variable rubber, the new value of Lisbon has been assigned. So, calling it, we have. Now the split method divides a string into a list of words, while join combines a list of strings into a single string. So let's say, for example, we have here, let our sentence be Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao. If we want to split that, okay, we use the dot split method. And as you can see, it's split on the space. Okay, here, the space. But let's say, for example, you wanted to split on a specific character, in this case, for example, the comma. Then to do that, you just need to tell or inform the dot split method that you want it to split not on spaces, but on commas. So in that case, Bella Ciao, you'll have two Bella Ciaos because it's split here. Take note, it also included the space, and this is important, spaces are also characters. So for example, spaces are also characters. So if you have here, for example, the len of sentence, you have 22. If you count that, it counts even the space. So the dot join method, on the other hand, would join words into a new sentence. So let's say, for example, I want to save this split, right, into a new variable called words. And if I call on words, I have two, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao. If I want to join these two words together, the format there is I have this string, all right, and I want to join them with spaces in between. So dot join words. Now, if I want to have a comma in between, what I'll do is a space. Or if I want to have, let's say, a semicolon, then do the semicolon. So basically, it's saying take this list of words or list of text joined using this character. So a space would do this. You can also loop through a string character by character using a for loop. So let's greet each letter in the professor's name. So let's say, for example, for letter in leader, print, and this is how we greet each letter. So the F string, hello, this curly braces will contain the letter. So for each of the letter in the word or in the variable leader or the professor, we will put that letter in this string, right? So it will be printed. Now, string traversal is actually very crucial if you want to process each character individually, which is of course something that we need to do when we are modifying or searching the text. So like we've discussed earlier, strings are immutable, and just as a review, You can't change the individual letters of the string once they're already created. However, you can use string slicing in order to create a modified one. So let's do that. Do this. So let's see that in action. So let's say, for example, you want to modify a string by creating a new one, which is the advice we've given earlier. So in this particular case, let's say, for example, the modified leader, that will be our new character, or that will be our new leader, is maybe the L. We want to add L and then some space plus, okay, the leader from index 0 up to the end. Of course, if we print the modified leader, we'll get the L professor. So this creates a new string instead of modifying the original one. Of course, if you also want to test this for the string slicing, let's say size from 0 to index 3, just a review, for Python, this excludes the index 3, but it will include characters from the modified leader variable from index 0, 1, and 2. So you have index 0, 1, and 2, including the space, because now you know that the space is also a character, okay? But as a review as well, if you don't include 0 here, the Python understands that you still want the first character anyway. And let's say, for example, for 3 up to the end, maybe not -1 for the end, you have that one. However, this, because the -1 excludes the last character, so the R, as you already know, and we've been reiterating. But if you want to include up to the last variable, leave this after the colon as blank, as Python will understand that you want to include from index position 3 up to the last one. And there you have it. You can compare strings using relational operators and check for the presence of substrings using the in operator. So let's try that now. So for example, if you want to verify that, let's say, for example, right, we've changed the rubber to become Lisbon, and if you want to still verify if it's still Tokyo, it will tell you false because we have changed it. If you want to check the presence of a substring, let's say, for example, in this case, you want to check if OKY or maybe TOK is in Tokyo, maybe you'd like to use the in operator. So let's say, for example, TOK in Tokyo. It will say true because we find this string or this substring in this bigger string. So for Lisbon, for example, if you want to check if ISB is in rubber, Lisbon is our rubber variable, it will tell you true. However, if you look at it with capital I, it will tell you false because capitalization is very important in string comparison, such that, for example, if you have here Tokyo and you want to verify if it's similar with Tokyo, it will not be the same because it has to be exactly similar. In the same case, for example, even if we have Tokyo and it has an extra space here, it won't be similar because it has some space. But of course, this is how we would now introduce here the dot strip method, where it would strip all of the leading or trailing characters. So for example, in this case, if you apply the dot strip method, it will become true because it removes or strips all the spaces. So let's see more in action what the dot strip does. Let's say, for example, you have here banana, apple, cherry. Okay, the dot strip method can also remove the characters that you need to specify. Let's say, for example, here, so you want to remove all the dot or the period characters. This is the leading character, so we want to remove the leading character. We want to inform the dot strip method or supply the argument that we want to remove all the the dots here and gets removed. Now, it's important that the dot strip method only gets applied, or you use it only to remove characters that are trailing or leading. For example, if you want to remove this, it won't be able to do that because the comma character isn't found before or after a string. You can, of course, however, replace that if you want with, let's say, a space. And sorry, the dot replace method requires two variables, so replace that with a space. You see that here. And of course, if you want to also remove this as well, you can compound the string method that you've learned. So you have here the dot strip, and you want to strip this, you're able to do that. So you can compound all those string methods. Now it's time to practice. Let's work on some exercises that will reinforce your understanding of the strings. Okay, so we have 3 exercises. The first one, we'll have to create a function that counts the number of vowels in a string. For exercise number 2, we have to create a function that checks if a string is palindrome. It means that the characters reads the same forward and backward. So if you reverse the character, it is essentially the same word or same sentence, but basically it's just the same word. And for exercise number 3, it's the ROT13 encryption. So we'll try our hand with the encryption method. We want to create a function that rotates each letter in a string by 13 positions in the alphabet, or what we know as the ROT13 encryption. So we'll discuss the solutions or the professor's take on this exercises in the next video. And that's it for today's video. This is simply the first step in understanding Python's basic data types. Strings are a powerful tool, and mastering them will help you a lot in your programming journey. Till the next video, bye now!